Hello. Well, for all the right reasons, most of the time our hearts are very much focused on all the many things, both good and bad, that are going on and changing all the time in the world around us. But sometimes it's good to centre in the rhythm, despite all this, of the church's year. At this time between the beginning of Advent and All Saints' Day, the church traditionally keeps a time called Kingdom Season. The robes and the falls and the frontals are red, and it culminates in the festival we celebrate next Sunday called the Festival of Christ the King. Now, what does that conjure up, the idea of Christ as King? Perhaps something a bit like the depiction of Aslan in the Narnia books by C.S. Lewis. A gentle and a just ruler, castles, princes, a realm of justice and love. Perhaps for some of us, in different patterns of prayer, it's more like an understanding of the kingdom being within us. The kingdom is within you, and that's another perspective. In the latter half of the 19th century, the Catholic poet Francis Thompson was being crushed by personal suffering. He had a serious dependency on drugs and spiritual unease, and one day he met a match girl, like in the Hans Christian Andersen story, very much a feature of the poverty and horror of Victorian London. And he asked, "Where is the kingdom of God?" "In this area of London I live in Charing Cross." And an idea comes to him. Perhaps we just don't notice it because we're so used to it. And Francis Thompson very quickly thinks of the example of an eagle. The eagle knows the surrounding air and its currents without even thinking of it, and yet they enable the eagle to fly and to live. And he uses the example of fish in water. The fish swim and breathe and live without really being conscious of the sustaining and life-giving power of the water they swim in. And Francis Thompson says, perhaps we need grace to see that there is a ladder leading to Charing Cross from heaven. Perhaps the kingdom of God is here. What does it look like if it's not air, if it's not water? Matthew's Gospel records the idea of the kingdom as a mustard seed, which in those days would not be a cooking ingredient, a seasoning herb primarily, but a weed. The most common of all ground plants, often stifling crops, and yet with an enormous capacity to grow beyond belief, unuprootable, vast, solid, and ultimately offering shelter and hope. These are the words from Matthew 13. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. Gosh, what does that look like? Perhaps it starts with small, intentional acts on our part of acceptance, love, joy, and justice. And perhaps by God's grace, it will grow into the vastness of the mustard seed kingdom, where all may shelter. Here is Francis Thompson's poem. It's called The Kingdom of God. O world invisible, we view thee. O world intangible, we touch thee. O world unknowable, we know thee. Inapprehensible, we clutch thee. Does the fish soar to find the ocean, the eagle plunge to find the air? That we ask of the stars in motion, if they have rumour of thee there. Not where the wheeling systems darken and our benumbed conceiving soars, the drift of pinions, would we hearken, beats at our own clay-shuttered doors. The angels keep their ancient places, turn but a stone, and start a wing. 'Tis ye, 'tis your estranged faces that miss the many-splendid thing. But when so sad thou canst not sadder, cry, and upon thy so sore loss shall shine the traffic of Jacob's ladder, pitched between heaven and Charing Cross. Yea, in the night, my soul, my daughter, cry, clinging heaven by the hems. And lo, Christ walking on the water, not of Gennesareth, but Thames.